Welcome to Let's Talk Life and Legacy, a moment with Dr. Grace. I'm your host, Dr. Grace Kelly. Just want to take the moment to remind you that this is our safe space where we have caring professional listeners, giving you the listening ear and also the permission to discuss issues that affect us daily. This evening, we'll be having a very interesting conversation on surviving COVID-19 financial crisis. You know, as we think about what's happening with us, we wonder what next. The world has closed down. We are closed out of our jobs, some of us. Some of us, we are locked in. And the fact that we are unable to do the things the way we are accustomed, it has put a significant pressure. And for some, the financial challenges, they're real, very, very real. And so the question really is, what do we strive for? Do we strive for contentment and gain or wealth building? Or are these things in competition with each other? I remember when growing up, some of us as Christians, we were taught and we believed it seriously that, money is the root of all evil. And it does seem as if for Christians, it's a noble thing to be poor and living in lack. What would others have to say about this? With me this evening are our co-host, Mrs. Shauna K. Pottinger and Dr. Pernell Bell. And we are going to be having a very special guest who is a financial expert to share with us. We are happy that you're here. So welcome. It's your time. Hop over. Invite your friends and your family. And while I'm here talking, Shauna and Dr. Bell, don't be so quiet. Let's hear from you. What has been on your mind since our last link up?
I'll let Dr. Bell go first.
Well, interestingly, I have been asked to give some talks on the going forward in terms of the year that has gone ahead, 2020, year of pandemic. And so my reflection was really reflecting on the year and what the year has taught me, the lessons that I have learned about me, the lessons that I've learned about the world, people, and work. And so I came up with some interesting answers in my reflections. And not only was I reflecting, but how this knowledge of the lessons learned, how is it going to help me to navigate 2021? And so my mind went to the fact that we have choices. Mm-hmm. And I've been telling people to turn COVID upside down. And when we turn it upside down, it spells divock. So we want to de-accelerate, slow down, stay informed, be vigilant, be optimistic, and remain calm. That's my reflection.
Now that I think about it, I probably should have gone first because Dr. Bell me feel like I did absolutely nothing over the past couple of days. But this past weekend, I had a moment when I just cried out to God. And the reason for that is, New Year's and January is that time for reset. It's that time for you to set new goals and assess, where you are when you compare what you've accomplished with the actual goals that you had. And to be honest with you, a feeling of overwhelm consumed me because, this is me now. I'm in a situation now where I'm trying to ask God to help me to be more efficient with my time management skills. I'm not so much more interested in making more money. I feel like more money will come when I get my time management in order. And so That's one of the things that I've been reflecting on recently. And I don't know if anybody else out there in the chat has been reflecting, but I just want to give a quick shout out to those who are in the house tonight.
Yes.
Because I'm seeing Stacia Martin. Welcome, Stacia. Good evening. It's nice to have you here. You can just drop in the chat if you're online. I see that 22 of you are here. I want you to take this opportunity right now. Just pause, hit that share button. That's all you have to do. Hit that share button right now so this feed can be posted on your respective pages. Share it in your WhatsApp groups. Kenrick Wallace, Shanice, RM Jackson, all of you, just go ahead and share that. Tell us where you're joining us from today and how this past week has been for you. But for me, Dr. Kelly, thank you for asking. Reflection on where I am and where I want to be. And I've come to one conclusion. This is my conclusion. There is no better place to be than in a position, even if you're in a waiting pattern or in a waiting game. There is no better place to be than to be waiting on God to work something mightily for you, because He does work mighty miracles. And I'm hoping that the next time we speak, we can be talking about the miracles that God has wrought, since our last conversation. But thank you for asking.
And Dr. Kelly, I just wanted to add too, in line with what Shauna K just said, that my mantra for this year is I'm going to nurture what I have rather than wanting change.
Wow.
I'm going to nurture what I have.
Powerful.
That's powerful, Doc.
And I appreciate what both of you have shared. And interestingly, Shauna, I am going to throw something at you. You mentioned about things will happen when you are able to manage time. I learned recently that you actually cannot manage time. Time happens. You cannot manage time. What you manage yourself. You manage your mood. You improve on your ability to capture the moment and to use every moment to the max to become the best you and fulfill your purpose, because you cannot manage time. Time goes with or without your noticing it.
That is so profound.
Yeah, what is important is for you to manage yourself.
I love that.
Manage the operations or the things that you're doing, and especially your thinking. Make sure that that is intact and you're always improving on it. So as we are here talking about that, something jumped in my mind also in terms of being a steward, being a good steward of the time. And the stewardship, it fits right into the topic, what we are going to be talking about, surviving COVID-19 financial crisis. It is really a crisis. For the past 2 weeks since we've been here, a lot of things has happened, even to me, having to make a decision in terms of health, in terms of where do I put the money. I am going to be vulnerable here. I had some money. Yes, I had some money that I wanted to invest. As the moment the money came to me, I had to go to the doctor, and I'm like, what do I do? I had to use it, and I had to decide, am I going to sacrifice my health for wealth, or am I going to take care of my health so that at least I would be given a chance to secure wealth in the event that something can change? And so my 2 weeks since we've been here, that's what has been on my mind. And I wondered at times, it makes me wonder, how do people, I have a job, I don't have a chick or a child, but it seems so difficult to survive. How do we survive? Shauna, take it away. Let's get into the meat of the matter this evening.
Doc, I can tell you that you came to the right place, right? Your questions, your situation right now, like many of you who are watching tonight, asking those very important questions. We all strive to be good stewards in many cases, but sometimes we end up falling short. And it's not because of things that we intentionally plan to do. It just happens. None of us had a hand to play, I hope, in COVID happening. But guess what? COVID is here. And with COVID comes many challenges centered around the financial aspects of our lives. That's whether it be in the form of healthcare costs, Dr. Grace, whether that be in the case of joblessness, whether that be in the form of rising cost of goods and services. I don't know about you, but everything just seems to be a little bit more expensive these days. Listen, another thing that has been impacting us, the kids are home all day and they seem to eat far more than they used to. So we find ourselves making more trips to the supermarkets to get food. And guess what? If you ever miss a day, if you wait a day late to go to the supermarket and get those food, these kids will holler and scream. I live it every day. I know the struggle. And guess what? We have a person here with us tonight. I mean, when we talk about heavyweight, we're not talking about obesity. we're talking about in terms of credentials. Magdalene Cooper-Deleuze is in the house, and I'm going to bring her out on stream right now. Magdalene, welcome to the vulnerable space, this place where you too can be vulnerable, but we're looking to you for some advice and but I want you, before you get into anything in terms of what we want to discuss tonight, I want you, Magdalene, if you can, to tell our viewing audience who is Magdalene and what qualifies you this evening to sit in this seat and give out some advice to us. Tell our viewers who you are.
Okay, so Magdalene Cooper-Deleuze. You can call me Mrs. Cooper, but you cannot call me Mrs. Deleuze because I'll be my father's wife. Magdalene has a Dutch heritage. And Magdalena's father was from Suriname and Magdalena's mother was from Trinidad. And then I was born in a place called Curacao. And then at age 2, my parents decided to go to Suriname to live where my father is from. And when we got there, somehow he decided he wanted to die. So he died. And therefore left my mother and myself. My sister was born in Trinidad, my late sister. I left my mother and myself, no plans in place. It doesn't appear so, because I saw my mother struggle, but I couldn't understand why she was struggling. It's now in almost my 6th decade, going on to my 7th decade, that I now understood why she was struggling. One is there was no wealth planning, and there was no personal wealth plan. There was no generational wealth. So therefore, it didn't happen. Fast forward, Magdalene Cooper-Deleuze now has been married twice. And my second husband is now the late Mr. Cooper. And I learned a lot from those 2 marriages in terms of how people get together and talk about wealth building and so on. That's why I'm so glad to be on the program. And the final piece I want to say about myself is that I got this passion, and I know it's God that put that passion, Holy Spirit put it inside of me, to really go and assess my past, look at my present, and go to the future. And as a result of that, retirement, financial, lifestyle planning, as I've told you all, I'm a pensions consultant as well. And then when in the 1990s, I started to explore pensions in Jamaica, Jamaicans told me, what are you wasting your time for? You don't know everybody in Jamaica know about pensions. I said, so what do you know? So I went down to a very popular place. I won't call their name. And when I went down there, I said, good morning. I'm here to find about old age pension. The lady says, ma'am, you're not from Jamaica, are you? You don't know what in Jamaica we don't talk about old age. and then I explored and explored. I studied law, and here I am today. And I'm really, really happy to share. I love the signature tune. I really am going to looking forward to being with you guys tonight.
Welcome, Magdalene.
Thank you. I don't know if I said anything about my children and my grandson. I actually have 2 sons and a grandson, and they live overseas. So
Oh,
it's just
very
a
nice.
pleasure to be in Jamaica, and it's always a pleasure to be with you guys. I'm looking forward to the program.
Excellent. Dr. Grace, please unmute and go ahead and entertain Dr. Magdalena.
Sorry, I was so excited I started talking without unmuting. But I think it's important for the audience, the listening audience, to appreciate that Magdalena, I think you also lived in England
Yes,
for some time. So the
yes.
international flair has come with you. Also,
And
we
I also
are,
lived, sorry, and I also lived in Turks and Caicos. I lived in Cayman, in St. Lucia, but I'm staying right here, sir.
Wow,
right,
you're
so,
getting around. Jamaica is nice. Jamaica is nice. It really is.
Oh,
Actually.
beautiful. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
thank you for sharing. Dr. Bell, listening to the introduction that Magdalena just did, and one of the things I appreciate her sharing in terms of the background with her parents and not having the legacy. In another setting, I heard her speak and share this story. And she came out of a very wealthy background, but then it just ended. What is it that one can do, and how important in terms of generational wealth and having security, financial security? What kind of psychological benefit is there? I'd like for you to address that first before we go back to Magdalena for the other side of the conversation.
So you spoke about contentment versus wealth. And so contentment is that peace of mind that we get when we are able to manage ourselves financially. We're able to afford food, clothing, even the basics. Or I shouldn't even say even the basic, I should say the basic. And so that level of being able to afford our sustenance and covering makes it a level of contentment that we will have. And psychologically, that will make us be at peace with self and with others. So there is psychological benefit from really having a stable financial setting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And back to Magdalena. Now, why is it important for one to build personal and generational wealth, especially during a pandemic? Right now, you have to be thinking how much to spend on toiletries. Remember, in the first part of the pandemic, the most important commodity was toilet tissue.
Yes, 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 yes.
So talk to us about that, the importance of building personal and generational wealth especially during a pandemic.
Okay. What I started off by as you were speaking, what I was thinking there is that there are only a certain group of people who should be building wealth during this time, and I'm going to talk about that a little later on. But firstly, I think I want to speak more to changing the mindset. And you said it earlier on when in your opening remarks about, we thought that, to be poor was really the righteous thing to do and not to be wealthy. I think we need to change the mindset. If we look at the principle that personal and generational wealth is really offered to each of us and our family and our succeeding generations, the issue we have is because it's coming from creation, eh? The issue we have is how do we speak that language and communicate it? So I don't need to know that because you're looking so nice tonight, Dr. Grace, that you have $10 billion in the bank. I don't need to know that. But I need for you to say to me, or if I meet anybody, what are your wealth building principles that you're following? And what I've found is that people don't realize that the Bible and Jamaica's legislation provides principles and rules for personal and generational wealth. So whether you're starting to build a wealth during the pandemic, or if you're looking at it before the pandemic, the issue is how do you prepare? I have a corporate client who I am working with along with right now. And I said, it's well and good that I can speak the language and so on, but how do I prepare them for the next phase for which they're going through with a particular program. And what I found was that when you have a preparation mode in your thinking, you get far better results than just thinking about it from the perspective of I want to be rich. No, you can't get a tree without planting the seed and preparing the soil. So the preparation aspect of it is very, very key. And then you set up your goals and then you work on it so that it's not only for the pandemic you're preparing for, it is also, as you said in the question, generational wealth. How do you continue that? I have a book at home here where I use reference called, the name just slips me right now. Perpetual Wealth. That's what it's called. It's a great book because what the book speaks about is preparation and how each generation comes up with its ideas and prepares the next generation. One thing I don't know about you all, but I can tell you in my own family and even with my two marriages, there was never that preparation. There was never that discussion. The discussion was about how we're going to pay the bills. No, that's you always pay the bills. What's key is how do I prepare myself for today and the future and for my succeeding generation. Last one I want to make here on that point in terms of principle. Remember that each generation is the foundation for the next one. So just like when you're planting the seed, if you don't know what soil you want to put out there for the future, then how are you going to expect the best later on? For instance, the other day, I was speaking with my grandson who is 14 years old. And we're talking, because I studied law. He then says, he likes to read. I said, so you want to be a lawyer? Immediately, because, in order to do law, you have to read. And then guess what I did? I bought him some books and I sent it to him.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So it's how you prepare, how you speak, how you communicate the wealth. It's not a bad word. It's a good word. Because God in his wisdom said at creation, when he put Adam and Eve together, be fruitful and multiply.
And it continued in his words, I wish above all things that you may prosper.
That you may prosper, because he could only say that. He could only say that because of what he said in the beginning.
Exactly.
So he was just continuing the thought and ensuring that and saying to each one of us, listen, I'm a covenant keeping God. I said so at the beginning. So guess what? It's going to continue.
Yep. So essentially we have to break the history of habits then.
I think it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it's somebody in the family saying, listen, our family is here to create wealth and personal wealth and generational wealth.
So we have to decide as a family to do that.
And you have to be strategic.
Very
Magdalene,
strategic.
I am curious though, how do you define wealth? I think that needs to be cleared up. How do we define wealth? Is it riches? What is it?
Very good.
I
think you're reading my mind.
Excellent.
So let me tell you. I say the definition I've come up with based on my research is that persons are rich when they have enough capital and investments to fund their first generation, like their children. Persons are wealthy when they have enough capital to fund their children and their succeeding generation. So I would say in today's world, and I'm going to make a statement here, don't throw me off the program, right? I am going to say, if you have about $1 billion right now in Jamaican dollars, I would say you're in the process for being rich. Because if you take that $1 billion and you divide it by 140 or 150, it's not going to really add up to much. No, sorry, I take that back. Take that back. What I mean is that you're on your way to becoming wealthy. Yes? So I know if I told the average Jamaican that you can earn, if you stay focused on that, you will make it. Not in an illegal way, but in a legal way. then I know it can be done, because Jamaica is a very wealthy place. There's a lot, like if I walk from here to Montego Bay and decide to pick up all the coins from off the road, I know I'll become $1 billion. I'll make it, because all I have to do is take the money and invest it. So I think once you determine whether you're going to be rich or wealthy, it's really based on how much capital you have that can continue to your next and continue to your further generations. A good man, remember the text, Proverbs 13:22, first part, it says, a good man, a good woman, a good husband, a good wife, leaves an inheritance for his children. So even if you've got the riches and you're not thinking about it from an inheritance point of view for your children, it not lasts. Because let's say, for instance, you haven't communicated that and your children get it, then they must know up front that it's now their stewardship to continue it to the succeeding generations. So it's a continuum. And how we talk about it is very key. I'm sorry to sound so passionate, forgive me.
No, that's fine. This is very,
yes.
We love the passion.
So that leads me into asking you though, how do we build this generational wealth? Even now that we are seeing there's a pandemic ensuing and rising costs of living, there's economic crunch for everyone. How do we build this wealth? It sounds cushy and mushy and everything. So how do we build this wealth?
But let me tell you how I build it, first of all. Let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus.
Wow.
So I don't go off on that negative. What I say is, Lord, guess what? I have a love relationship with you. That's first. Love the Lord thy God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. Therefore, if I'm in a relationship, I have a role to play, but God has the major role to play because he knows the end from the beginning. So therefore, if it is, and that's why this program is so good, because as a theme said, let's talk. Once we are talking, you remember, that at creation, nothing happened without God speaking. So your words have a lot of power in it. And if you don't use your words carefully, and if you don't use them with love for God, for yourself, and for others, then you're not going to build the wealth. And I say that guardedly, because there are people who don't do that and they still build wealth. That's fine. I'm just saying the best way to do it is to use words of kindness, have relationships. And I'm glad you asked that question. Yes, wealth. I'm going to ask one question to you and the audience. What's the first word in the word wealth? In the word wealth. What's the first word in the word wealth?
I could answer, but I would be cheating because I know.
Yeah, right. So what about Shauna? Please ask them to put it in the chat.
Go ahead. I really want to hear from the brilliant people that we have online here. I see some very brilliant people in there. Let me tell you something.
Yes.
I see Roberta Chambers on here, she's sharp like a razor,
Yes.
Play with her, And then, so I see somebody here giving an answer.
Yes.
Is that the answer right there? Is that it? I tell you, she's sharp like razor. I tell you.
So very good, Roberta. Clap for that. Okay, so
James also said that.
So that is the first, Dr. Bell. That is the starting. Oh, Joel, yes. No, Jody.
Yeah, a lot of them. Wow.
Wow. So that is the
I could go all night. I could go all night.
Magdalene, this is a safe space and I can be vulnerable. When you asked me the first time, it took me a long time to figure it out. These people are good.
I remember that.
Listen, we have some genius on here, man.
Yes,
look
but
at this
Dr.
one
Grace,
here.
Dr. Grace, we are not going to tell them what your answer was, right? We're not going to tell them that. Okay. So if you notice in the word wealth, there is no I in it.
Interesting again.
In the word wealth, there's no I.
There's no I in wealth.
So once you know who is your we, because you have to have a we, because God gave us the example, let us make man. He didn't say let me make man or let I make man. He said let us. So the we is very important. Who you link up with your we, like this program, reading good books. The Bible has many, many principles in it in terms of how you allocate your money. And I'm going to bring a reference to that later on. How you are able to say, I gave I think I should. I don't know if I share with if anybody else on the group has heard me say it, but the key thing is that there's no I in wealth, but there's a we. Good, nice for thanks for that posting. So the key thing is as well to understand there's a we and determine who your we is. And once you determine that, then you recognize that we comes out of a feeling of love. Yeah, so you can't be wealthy and don't have love. So one of the things I've been saying to my clients and everybody who I meet, and I'm going to tell the audience as well, I'm going to give you a formula which you can write down for love. Love is equal to, anybody wants to help me, or shall I continue? Love is equal to forgiveness and reconciliation. You cannot build wealth with a peaceful mind if you're not going through forgiveness and reconciliation. A few years ago, I had a client who said to me, her husband wasn't getting on very well, and she don't know because I asked, very good, thank you for putting it on the screen. And she doesn't know, if they'll get together. I said, darling, I don't live with both of you. Just learn how to forgive and reconcile. And do you know that a few weeks ago, just after Christmas, she sent me a WhatsApp message, Magdalena, me and my husband have reconciled. Now, when you get that reconciliation, the next question I'm going to ask is 1 + 1 equal? Anybody online? 1 + 1 equal? Dr. Grace, you mustn't answer.
No, I can't.
Must answer. 1 + 1, quick. Online group, 1 + 1 equal?
Come on, everyone. Just go ahead and hit me with those answers. We're waiting on them.
1 + 1 equal?
Come on, you know your math.
Yeah.
They are afraid now.
But this is relationship math.
See, this must be a married woman,
What she said? No, I'll accept it, but it's not the answer I'm looking for.
Listen, you have to give her it's right too, What it depends on what you're talking about.
It's right, but it's not correct.
All right, what is the about Shanice now?
No, Shanice, 1 + 1 is not equal to based on what I'm speaking about. Let me tell you what 1 + 1 is equal to.
I just said
Let's
it.
see if Roberta gets it.
Oh, that's close,
Many.
Roberta. Many, yes. Let me tell you what 1 + 1 is equal to. 1 + 1 is equal to infinity.
Infinity.
And that's how, when you have that kind of mindset, then when you start on the journey for wealth, you don't have to wonder if you're going to make it, because you'll have these little principles to guide you. You're going to love, because if you're not love, God help you, it's going to come back to haunt you. And if you now know that with your spouse, because if your spouse, and not a spice, this is the spouse I'm talking about, right? And if you're sorry, I have to make this fun as well, right?
It's
Your
so
spouse, if when you're getting married, your spouse comes to the table with 500,000, and you come to the table with 1 million, you don't know where that is going to go to, because if you work together, you could end up being a billionaire in a very short space of time because you have the we. But if you go into that relationship and you say, boy, I don't know why I get married to him, why I get married to him, boy, this money is mine, or me bring it in here, what's going to happen? The wealth is not going to be visible. And that is what causes a lot of problems. Now, on the other hand, if you look at another example I'm going to give, if you look at the royal family, and I hope they don't get vexed with me for saying this, they are wealthy because they have a naturally established by law wealth principle. And that is a lot of the estate that they have in the UK and so on, that's coming from way, way back when. But guess what? Their descendants can marry, but they'll never own the property. So they can live, they can live, they can come and say, oh, I've got this and I live here. And but they'll never own it. So what it means is that if you're now into that kind of a situation, you now have to say, okay, you're onto my family's property. Let us buy another property. So in case I die before you, my family doesn't throw you off the property. So, or what I can say is I can give you a life tenancy where you, even though you're living on family property, you can always live there until you die. So there are a number of things that prevent the wealth from building, as well as building the wealth.
Now, Magdalena, I want to be honest with you, I want to find out, because, you know, it's one thing to talk about acquiring assets and all of that kind of stuff, but we're living in a time right now where if you're able to even meet the basic expenses, and I get what you're saying, don't operate from a place of lack, is what I'm getting. Don't think from a place of lack. But if when I do my budget, the amount that's coming in, right, is barely enough to cover what has to go out. And I'm talking about basics between the food, a place to live, the rent, you know, and all of these things that we're talking about. We're in the middle of COVID now. I never prepared enough. I wasn't able to put aside enough before COVID. And so I'm in it right now. What are the practical steps that I can take right now? What creative
Shauna,
ideas can you give us right now in terms of how? Yes.
I believe that Dr. Grace introduced you as being married.
I am.
Okay. So ask your question again.
Okay. I see where you're going. I see where you're going. I see where you're going. So you want me to ask you to frame it as we, right?
Right.
Okay.
So once you start to frame it as a we, and once there's honesty, integrity, and there's trust in that setup, you will find that a lot of those things don't really come into because in this era, you know, there are lots of investment opportunities. Properties are going to be sold off because people didn't plan to pay the mortgage. You know, they're going to come down at really good prices. There's some of them are going to be higher prices. So if it is that you have a we, whether it's a husband, whether it's a child, whether it's your employer because you're working a good job, some employers will say, based on how you're working, yeah, man, I'll give you an interest-free loan. And some of them will say, okay, I will be, because I see you have integrity. I can trust you. So the first thing is that you have to have that we. Who is your we? A lot of us, including myself, have suffered because I didn't understand that wealth is built with we.
And
I don't care how you cut it, wealth is built with we. So ask me the question again.
So let me ask you now. So we have a lot
My
of bills.
husband and I.
My husband and I,
Yes.
for instance, may have a lot of bills, right?
Yes.
And based on what's coming in, it barely is enough to cover what has to go out.
Yes.
What practical steps can I take? I mean, in the midst
What
of that.
practical steps can what?
What practical steps that can I take to build
Can
wealth?
You see, it's interesting. It's interesting, Anna. You know, it is such a difficult thing for most persons. And what I appreciate about this, as a professional and as a married person, Shauna, thinking of the persons in the chat, can you understand how difficult it is for us to change the mindset? Because indeed, you cannot work enough to build wealth. You cannot by yourself build wealth and generational wealth. So it has to be in collaboration, whether it's networking or whatever partnership. And what I like about what Magdalena said also, she also look at it as the employer-employee connection. So who is the we? You know, so I appreciate what is being said and how it is being presented.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you. You may go ahead, Shauna.
The we is very key, and I think that's the first part of the language we have to change. That's the first part of the language we have to change, in that No, she's saying that a prerequisite of the mindset is okay. Um, yes, it's also free from malice and unforgiveness. That's also correct. But the we also means that when you know, like for instance, I don't want to say too much about myself, but I'll say this. When this is the only time I'm using I because it's really me here and God. So that's the we I'm talking about. When I say I, that's the we I'm talking about. When I get to a roadblock like that, I say, God, guess what happened? I don't have that money to pay that. You tell me what to do.
Okay.
And therefore, I know that I'm in a relationship, a love relationship. So if I'm still married and understanding that principle, like how you're married, then I'd say, honey, let's talk about it. Let's pray about it. What do you have that you think you have any savings at work? Because what I've recognized, is that first of all, people don't understand the meaning of pay. Anybody can tell me the meaning of pay when you work with somebody? Yeah, that's the next problem. Because once you become an employee, if you don't know what's the definition of
Pay as
pay,
you earn.
no, pay, the definition of pay is equal to cash and non-cash benefits. And sometimes employers set up savings plans, which sometimes the spouses don't come home and talk about. You see what I'm saying? So it's
Yes.
not that there isn't anything, it is how do the we, spiritual and physical, get together and say, come on now, we're in a situation here, but we are still focused on building wealth.
So as I gather from what you're saying, then you
Yes.
you are basically saying that the hallmark of wealth building comes down to our ability to formulate strong relationships,
Yes, spiritual and physical.
spiritual and physical, and that has to do with
Yes,
our
Social.
spouses and so on and so forth.
yes, yes,
Lessons
So,
learned.
Networking within our
so,
family.
yes.
so, Shauna K, too, practically, I think Magdalena too, would agree that practically the we could come together. And for example, in this time of pandemic, the we could come together and begin to discuss the fact that we are under crunch, and so therefore we can reduce unnecessary spending. So
Right,
that would be one practical step.
right,
Another could be that they could begin to explore available opportunities.
right.
Right now in Jamaica, what I'm actually seeing here in Jamaica is a whole heap of food me see pan they sell out there, and it seems to me like many persons who have become unemployed at this time and don't have money to carry out their normal economic and financial functioning, they are finding opportunities that go plant
Mm-hmm,
ground
mm-hmm,
and do
mm-hmm,
other wealth building, because the wealth
mm-hmm,
will come
mm-hmm,
out of
mm-hmm,
situations like that. And
mm-hmm,
so they are trying to find extra income because many
mm-hmm,
persons have become underemployed and unemployed. And so
mm-hmm,
some practical steps, down to the brass tacks of what to do in this time of pandemic is that we can't sit down and fold our hands.
no.
We have to come together and figure out ways. For me, definitely what I did at the start of the pandemic was to get a financial advisor, my financial advisor,
Yes.
and I asked him a question. I was planning to put a door on my garage, and him said, "You have a garage?" And I said, "Yes." And that was my answer. In this time of the pandemic, I don't need a door on my garage. I have a garage already.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Oh my
practical
goodness.
stuff.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Dr. Bell.
Hmm.
And the other thing that we could, another practical thing is retooling
Yes.
to
So
learn new skills.
so that's
Yes.
a good one, because Dr. Grace, you saw my post today. Whereas a lot of people are complaining about COVID, to be honest
Oh,
with you, I'm not
yes.
complaining. I tell you this, prior to
Neither am I.
COVID, prior to COVID, I was actually going through a situation where I was looking into childcare options because my job required me to travel back and forth between Pennsylvania and Florida, like once monthly. I had to be doing this, and um, I'm telling you, when I looked at the cost for the childcare, I was like, oh my goodness, Jesus, take the wheel. And it's interesting because COVID came around and it restricted everybody to stay inside.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are almost a year later. And God has provided for me in the sense that I don't have to pay for childcare at this point in time.
Yes.
You know, there are other things, including, you know, I posted about my hair. I did my hair myself, you know, because I watch
It
YouTube
actually look
videos.
nice, let me say that.
Thank you. And I'm actually looking up videos on how to, you know, do other things, learn to do other things and learning new skills and so on. So I would strongly recommend that to anyone out there who's looking for an opportunity right now. Of ways that you can make money or build new skills, because I promise you, I know how to do this. And if somebody comes to me and say, listen, can you, I can now use that skill as a money-making opportunity. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Excellent point, because
Yeah.
within the family, you are scared to go to the hairdresser. Another
Mhm.
family member is. You may eventually have to, and I'm just sharing this generally for persons who are on the chat also. Some of you may have to go to the job and you don't have anybody to watch the children. There may be a child in the
Mm-hmm.
house who is big enough to have the children there, but you have a cousin or auntie zooming, checking in to make sure they're okay. And if it is that you live within a certain vicinity, you know, close proximity, you can
Mm-hmm.
have one of the family members who you believe would be safe and protecting themselves from COVID to go over. So multiple streams of income is another thing that must be considered at this time. It is
Can I
said that
make a
when you are sleeping, you should be able to make enough money so when you're awake, you can't spend it all off. I
yes,
am
can I make
yet
can I
to
make
do
a
that.
comment
I
there?
absolutely will. And yes, Magdalena, it's your moment.
Yes. So the streams of income is something that I think is very important. And there to my right and your left, I actually have a picture there which actually looks at the sources of retirement income in Jamaica.
I
And
was
what
going
has
to ask you
happened is
this, the
seven sources of retirement income.
Maslow hierarchy of needs.
Yes. But it's really about talking about Jamaica. What has happened in Jamaica,
Okay.
I think, and you all can correct me, is that we don't get a lot of programs. Yeah, that gives a little bit of a better view. We don't get a lot of emails like on money management, wealth, benefits planning, and so on. I am linked into a lot of groups on overseas, and every day I have about 10 to 15 emails to read on building wealth, riches, benefits, and so on. So, for instance, in Jamaica, people are still not regarding NIS properly. NIS pays a wealth of benefits. And so, what I would say, whether COVID or not, and especially if you're self employed, pay your NIS, please. Pay your NHT. Make those a priority because those are foundation benefits. And I say this all the time. I know some people might want to laugh at me, but I will tell you they come in very handy because those plans pay a benefit. You need income in the event of disability, old age, and death. And so, therefore, these plans are designed to do that. And therefore, when it is that you can do it and also do a superannuation fund if you want a retirement scheme, if you're in the public sector, or if you were in the tourism sector, there was a plan was established there as well. Then you manage your inheritance well, because everybody has inheritance. It's just that some people fight over it and they get nothing. And so as you go up the ladder and you look now at say even children, how do you work together with your children? How do you work together with family? You know, so it's very important to have that we and know the sources of income. Once you know what the sources are, once you look at what is being offered at the workplace, you can get through this. I don't know. I'm not negative about the pandemic at all. I'm just not
Okay.
negative.
But
I,
Magdalena,
go ahead.
we have to be practical too, because
Yes.
seriously, some people are out of a job and haven't worked since March 12th because of being laid off. We see how badly the tourism sector has been affected, and so people are looking for, like, practical ways that they can build it back their wealth in this situation. So
And I agree.
yeah.
And I agree. But it's again, it's now, it's I probably am different. I cannot focus on COVID because I don't know anything about it. And they tell me they tell me what are the things I must remember. I mask, I do this, I do that, and I follow what the protocols are. At the same time, though, I also have to live for today and the days to come, and I have to build a wealth because I want an inheritance for my children. So how do I balance those two things? And a lot of the people who have been laid off have also got lump sums of money, like they were made redundant. I told a client today, what you did with the money? Oh, you did this and this. Okay, so how much income you're going to get from what you invested? He doesn't know. I said, you have to.
So Magdalene, those are some of the practical stuff that, we would want to really be hearing, because,
Right.
for example, if you get that lump sum, don't go and go spend it on whatever. What do you do with it
That's
so
right.
that you
Exactly.
have an investment with it? So,
Exactly. So
very important.
the first thing during a pandemic that everybody needs is to know where an income is going to come from, whether
Yeah.
from the job or otherwise. And
And
so
if you
if you
don't
get
have
a
a
lump
job,
sum of
create
money,
one.
pardon me?
Yes.
If you
If
don't
you
have a
don't
job,
have, we have to
create
create
one.
one.
Make
Yeah.
Yes, but before you even create one,
do
if you get
something.
a lump sum of money in terms of a redundancy or whatever, you take that. I've made those mistakes in the past, so I'm telling you from experience. You take that and you buy an annuity. A lot of people in Jamaica don't seem to know what an annuity is.
Tell us.
And they think it's a waste of time. But what they fail to realize is that the annuity gives you a guaranteed lifetime income. And that income, you then take it and invest it. And if you lose on the investment, next month you're going to get an income, which is similar to a pension.
Yes.
So I would implore everybody, find a way to put together with your your spouse, not your spice, but your spouse. You get together with your
And you
spouse.
have to take into
And
consideration single people too.
yes, but single persons as well. So if you and your children can get together, put together a lump sum of money and
And you
say,
might
okay,
have
mom.
children too.
No, and those who don't have, those who have nieces and nephews who are doing very well in their you know what I mean, Shauna? Yeah.
But listen,
So
you make a good point there, and I wanted to because we're coming up against the time now,
Yes.
and I
yes,
wanted to sort of address some of the
Segment.
questions that Dr.
go
Bell just
ahead.
alluded to it. But
Yeah,
somebody
so,
asked
so
this question: what if you don't have a we? What
yeah,
if you don't have a we? Let's say
And
you
you're
don't have
single.
anybody in your circle that you can trust.
If you don't have a find one. As somebody said, I think it's Dr. Grace who said earlier on, or no, I think it's Dr. Bell, found their financial planner to sit with. Find a
yeah.
financial planner. Go to the bank and find if they have anybody who is giving information. So you can find a we. Now, the we may not be able to contribute into what you're doing, but the we can give you ideas as to how you can pursue where you're at and what to do. Because sometimes it's not so much that you don't know what to do, it is that you need a cheerleader, you need a mentor,
Yeah.
you need somebody to kind of cheer you on. How are you doing? Is it going well? So you can dance a little bit every now and again to the music, like what was played today. You know what I mean? Just to feel happy. So if you have a we, then when the stuff is going south and you find you don't know, you can say, boy, I'm not feeling so good today. What do you think I should do about so and so? It's when you don't have a we is when the stress comes in, and then you find, so when I have a we, I have mentors now. I've developed mentors. So you need a mentor, somebody to do it. So once you have that, that's a good question as point as well. Wealth building is not taught in schools. And I was as that point came up, forgive me for talking so fast. Sorry. Let me slow down a little bit. I'm excited. As that thought is being shared online now, I always go to this YouTube video, and it's called
Yes.
how the Jews teach their children to allocate money.
You can
Everybody
find
can
on
go there and look
Google.
for it. Look it up. And what happens there is that the father is teaching the son from a primary school how to allocate money. 10% tithe, 10% offering, 10% savings, 20% investments, 50% personal spending. The boy takes some of his savings and he takes it to school, and he buys stuff or lends the money out. When Yes, that is the correct. That is correct. See, somebody's putting it up there for me. When the boy finishes high school, he buys his first home cash.
Mm.
How many of us are helping our children to do that? It's not that it can't be done. It's just that we don't have wealth building in our DNA. We have to
Mm.
get it in there. You know,
Mhm.
it's building
Mhm.
So
wealth. No, not to say, oh, I am wealthy, don't talk to me. No. It's to give God thanks and praise as well, and to help somebody else along the way. If I could help my brother or sister, you'd have done well. So I think it is those are the principles that if I leave nothing else, I want to leave those we principles. It's not hard to find a we. It is how you open your mind to find a we.
right. So the ending of the question, or the question on the statement that Roberta put up was whose responsibility it is to teach the children, and we would all conclude that it would be the parents' responsibility. All
Yes,
right. So
and what
teach them.
Yes,
Go
and what
ahead.
I would say is, and because I have Dr. Grace and Dr. Bell with me, and also Shonake, tell the schools for me, please, and we can give them a program in the schools. We'll be happy to put together a program for them, because I think
Yeah,
if we
we
don't
should.
do it, I think we would be now not helping succeeding generations to do better. When I came to Jamaica in 1981, a patty was 60 cents. Anybody remembers that? How much is a patty today?
I remember when it was five. We used 5 cents, and
Too much.
Exactly. And if
suppose.
you're like me and you would like a cocoa bread with it, it's over $200. Now, 60 cents to $200, there must be a lot of wealthy people in Jamaica because patties are still being sold and people are eating it. So I am saying it's how we now put it all together. Yes?
Right. So
Magdalena, I have one last question for you here in the chat, and I want you to answer that one, and then you can tell the viewing audience. Let's say they want to get a hold of you. Really, this amount of time is not enough for us to benefit from the wealth of knowledge that you have. So after you answer this question, please share with the viewing audience how they can get in contact with you. Let's say they want you to come to their schools, they want you to come to their churches to give presentations, or they want to talk to you personally. You can just give that information. But go ahead and answer that question for us.
Which question? How do you
How do
guard
you
against?
guard against being exploited? People
That's a
taking advantage
very
of you.
That's a very good question. What I have done in my life recently is that I have used the love principle. And you see, when you use the love principle to guide you, spiritual and physical, when somebody is coming to you with a yarn, you can smell them a mile off. Because if what the person is not telling you is not on a principle base, and that is why, I walk laws of Jamaica. I have my Bible. Listen, when you know the principles and somebody's deviating from the principles, you can tell. And so, what you have to do is really educate yourself. If something doesn't sound right, but as the saying goes in the financial sector, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't, right?
Yes.
Yes. So therefore, you have to be very. I have been down that road where I've done some investments, and it's really crippled me sometimes. But then I said, "Okay, Lord, you know what happened? I was hearing something that was too good to be true. I went into it, and I'm paying the price right now. How do I help others not to go down the same road?" And so you really have to really keep keen eyes. You have to hang around positive people who understand, who know the laws of the land, who know the biblical principles as well. Pray for discernment. That is also true. Before you go into a transaction, you pray for discernment. My number is, because I know time is flying. My number is, I'm on WhatsApp, and my cell number is 876-897-2335. Or you can get me on LinkedIn. I'm not a Facebook user, but I will answer you if you get in touch with me via Facebook or you ask me to link with you. But if you're sending me a message via WhatsApp or a message, a text message or WhatsApp, please put your name in there and refer to this program.
right. And if anybody misses that, they can also send us the request through our Facebook page. Let's
Very
Talk
good.
Life and Legacy. We will have something here for Magdalena. She also
Magdalena,
has a
can you
book.
repeat that phone number, please?
876
Mm-hmm.
897 2335.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I prefer really if you, that's correct. That's correct. That's correct. I prefer if it really also comes through your Facebook page because I think we can collaborate. As Dr. Grace will tell you, we have collaborated in the past on many occasions.
Yes.
And
And
so, and she hasn't got a bad report yet. So,
And
and
I must tell
Magdalena,
you how valuable, one moment, Shana, how valuable that has been. It was not until I met Magdalena that I could truly appreciate the need for retirement planning.
yes.
And you do not start that when you reach 50. You start that when you're 18.
Good
Okay, the
student.
first go to your job interview. I learned this from
Yes.
Magdalena recently. One of the questions when they ask, do you have any questions for me? One of them that you should ask is, what is your retirement package? What does it look like?
Yes.
How am I securing my future?
Yes.
Boy, if I had asked that 20 some years ago, I
Yes.
would have a solid plan. And
yes,
I'm
Yes.
not afraid to tell you that it's less than 2 years that I've started benefiting from some of the things. The other thing I learned, don't take your money away from NHT and those kind of benefits in the
Right.
they have different kind of plans, Shauna. You can speak to that in terms of what they are called. There are some benefits that you have. Never break them to buy food
Yes.
or whatever
Yes.
because you will lose out on the benefit that you should have
Yes.
for your retirement.
Yes.
The next thing is that in the United States and even in Jamaica, the laws of the land provide for you to have a home-based business that can
Yes.
help you to manage your finances so that some of the taxes and some of the expenses go towards your business. These
Yes.
are some things that you can learn. When we
Yes.
talk about multiple streams of income, find
Yes.
something. If you can do hairdressing, if you can help babysit, if you can do domestic work, if you can be
Farming, farming.
a lawyer and you can do consultation, you're a nurse, you can do consultation, whatever it is, just be a consultant
Mm-hmm.
and register your business, do it legally. And did you know that you could hire your
Yes.
children from they were born?
Yes.
You can hire them and have a contract with them, pay them the money for the service they render for the little ones. Maybe it's their photograph you use on your pamphlet. Maybe for others, it may be sweeping the office space. For others, it may be
Yes.
tidying. For others, it may be helping you prepare for a session like this. Whatever it is.
Yes.
Well, this is not a paid thing. It's not a job or a business. But I'm using those as an example. Did you know that you could get back most of the money that is paid to the government? It says the more money you work, the more Uncle Sam gets. So we have
Yes.
to know legally how to do these things. Study hard. It starts with the mind. Have the mind of Jesus.
Yes.
The
Yes.
bribing thing, don't take bribes because if you take it, you're gonna get it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
my last comment is within the context because I saw that we moved right in, Shauna, into the speak up segment without having announced it. So we basically went through that. I just want to say, lack and limitation is a quotation I found in the book, You're Born Rich. It says, lack and limitation can only exist when we make room for them in our minds. But
Mm-hmm.
prosperity consciousness knows no lack and no
Mm-hmm.
limitation. And the truth of the matter is, if your we is only God, it
Mm-hmm.
can take you far away because the legacy
Amen.
my mother gave me and our family, she said, never give up,
Mm-hmm.
never stop praying. God will always provide. And with that word, it took a little girl with a push cart from Junco Cliff Corner, St. James, through to the highest of heights within the context of academic accolades. And
Mm-hmm.
even with a PhD working for 20 odd years, I discover how ignorant I was as it relates to managing finance, and not wanting to have a plan, because, but now I know I am 50 plus, and I'm going to start right where I am today. Thank you,
Yes.
Magdalena. I am going to start, and hopefully by the time I reach retirement age, I don't have to say, oops, I forgot to plan for retirement.
And you need to say to them that I'm co-author of such a book, which is found
That's what I wanted to say.
on Amazon.
Yes.
Oops, I forgot to say for retirement. It's on Amazon.com. I'm a co-author of that.
Excellent. And Dr. Magdalena, is it possible that you could also share, in addition to retirement planning, some of the other things that key areas that you focus in as well, for those who want to benefit from your services?
Well, what I do is I as a consultant, there's two areas I've focused on. It's a planning area, so I can do retirement financial planning as a workbook, I should say. And then the other thing I have done in terms of generational wealth, I've also prepared a Q&A that people can complete, and therefore take to their attorney to help them do a proper legal will, testamentary trust, or inter vivos trust. What has happened is, in terms of, I'm sorry if my face looks like that, but I just agonize over it. So forgive me. I don't mean any harm. But what I have found in Jamaica is that most of us speak about a will. I have no problem with it. But guess what a will does? If I give you this pen in my will, you can see the pen? If I give you this pen in my will and you take it, you can do whatever you want with this pen.
Right.
You're beholden to nobody. You see, if I take this same pen and I put it in a testamentary trust, and I have trustees who manage this pen to make sure this pen can reproduce itself, provide you with an income and the grandchildren income, that's how you get generational wealth. Because what has happened is that a lot of the wealth in this country has been squandered over dead left fight. So those are the two things that happen upon death. So you can either have a will or a testamentary trust. Or as you're getting older, like myself, when you get into your 70s and your 80s, you really don't want to be bothered with having to manage your estate and go to the investments. So what you do is you set up inter vivos trust, which means a trust that starts during your lifetime, and you can have it such as it continues to succeeding generations. So those are the areas where I'm very strong on. I like to help people to do those because Jamaica is a very extremely wealthy place. It's just that there is need for managing and understanding those principles and what the law says you can do. I love testamentary trust. The other thing that you need to include in that, and if anybody asks me for the document, I can send it to you, because and you can go onto our website and get it, is that you can actually leave a notes for your survivors, what you want done. There's nothing wrong with that. You see what I'm saying? But the key thing is that you want that whatever you have accumulated, it is not for my children to come and say, oh, I'm living here and I have this. My mother left it for me. Oh, you can't come here. No. It is for the trustees, because when people get wealth immediately in their hands and they've never managed it, they squander it.
Yes.
When you give it, and that is why NIS, NHP, superannuation funds, and those plans do so well, because they have trustees in them. And you can sue the trustees if they don't operate very well. There was a Heinz great granddaughter, Heinz Foods great granddaughter, a few years ago sued the trustees for not managing her income very well. We don't hear those stories in Jamaica. Yeah? So trusteeship is a very important part of understanding generational wealth. Sandra, I've seen your post.
Yes.
And it's very important for us to understand. So it's not just building personal wealth, but how you set up the structure to pass it on to the next generation.
And Magdalena, the other thing, and I really value what Sandra just posted,
Yes.
that on your first day, your first salary, you should start contributing to your pension plan. And as I mentioned earlier, if more of us knew that, we would end up better. But don't worry about what never happened. Start now.
Yes.
And one of the things I want to emphasize is that whether or not we plan, the fact of the matter is we live, and as this program is called, let's talk life and legacy.
Yes.
So the quality of our life,
Yes.
however we live, it can be in terms of whether we plan for it or not. We are going to die. We are going to exit this earth, and whatever we accumulate is going to go to somebody, whether
Yes.
it's going to be Uncle Sam, wherever in the
Yes.
United States, London, US, or Canada, wherever you are from, it's going to go to someone. So why
Yes.
not plan and dictate to whom it goes? And I
Yes.
won't, I just be brief on this. There was a family who the mother, basically it was an adopted situation, will the things to the daughter. The daughter ended up dying, and the adopted family members came in and took every single thing out of the house, leaving the mother who earned the thing and worked for it with basically nothing. So
Sad.
talking about the trust versus the will, and people,
Yes.
please understand, preparing a will does not mean you're dying.
So did I. That's correct. That's correct.
Smart, so do it and do it right. Let's talk life and legacy. That's what it has been about.
Can I make
Thank
can I
you.
make can I make one last follow-up comment on what you just said? I think we forget that once we get into being an adult at age 18, it's a 40-year journey that you're really onto. The children of
Minimum.
Israel was supposed to take 11 days to go from Egypt to Canaan. It took them 40 years because of disobedience. Every one of us, whether it's us on the stage here or those who are listening, we have been through our 40-year journey where we make a lot of mistakes. But thank God He's still giving us the opportunity where we can change and do things better. So no matter where you are now, but remember, when you get to age 18, you must, whether you're working or not working, go to NIS and pay NIS and NHT because it allows you to do that. And once you're able to do that, then you'll have something for yourself. You can live happily. I don't think I look sad, do I?
Oh, no.
You look good.
Right. So you can live happily today and still make sure your succeeding generation have something. So it's a 40-year journey to plan with the 40 years.
Dr. Bell, I'm going
Excellent.
to share a thought I learned. It says, even if you feel like you're on your back, I mean, your back is against the wall, or you fall flat on your back, I think it's Les Brown who said, as long as you can look up, you can get up.
Yes, yes,
So let this be
yes,
your moment.
yes,
Get up
yes,
and do life.
yes, yes.
Well, ladies, this has been an excellent conversation. I have learned so much. I don't think it was enough to try to pack all of this within the hour. So we're definitely going to have to set up a part 2 discussion. But right now, we're going to be closing out the session. I see some very great remarks and comments coming through from our viewers here in the chat. One person said that we need to, the young people also need to learn about the we in
Yes.
wealth, because these young people these days are too lazy and dependent.
Yes.
So we're hoping that those of you who are here joining us are aware that Let's Talk Life and Legacy, a moment with Dr. Grace, is open to those of you who want to join us, join the tribe over there on Facebook. There is a group called Grieve If You Must, and it's a grief support group that's set up specifically for those individuals who need a community during this time, especially during COVID. So that's the next thing I'm going to ask you to go ahead and go over to the group and just request to be added to that group. It's called Grieve If You Must. Just look it up from Facebook, and you'll be able to be added to that group. Ladies, I'm gonna go ahead and just give you guys a last word. I think we are over time, so just bear that in mind as you give your last word. Magdalena, we'll start with you, and then Dr. Bell and Dr. Grace will just bring the show home.
Okay, so my final word is we. You want to be wealthy, get your we team together and be positive. Yes, hashtag we. Yeah. I can live with that. Hashtag we. Yeah, so we need to be able to do that and be trusting. Ask God to give you that power of discernment so that you can really not only help yourself, but to help others. Thank you for having me on the program.
It was great to
Right.
have you.
And being a psychologist, I will have to come from a psychological standpoint where I'm saying build your we wealth, right? And that will give you some level of psychological security
Yes.
and stability, contentment, and peace of mind. And that's what we should be striving for.
Mhm.
I heard Dr. Grace said earlier money, but we have to qualify to say it's the love of money that
That's
is
right.
the root of
It's a
all
lot.
evil, not money being the root of all evil, but the love of it. So we are not wanting to love it because then we will get exploited. We will get ourselves caught up in all kinds of schemes. What we are looking for is, yes, wealth building, but from a standpoint of contentment and peace and sustenance and covering.
Dr. Grace?
Excellent. Yes, thank you, Shauna. Thank you. Two things. The rich stay rich because they act poor, and the poor stay rich because they act. The poor stay poor because they act rich. So let me say that again for clarity. The rich stay rich because they act poor, and the poor stay poor because they act rich.
I love that one. That's a good one.
See money, see money as your servant.
Yes.
So
Not as your
schedule it to work for you, because the poor works for money while the rich makes money work for them.
Mhm.
I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with Shauna
Yes.
It was
A,
indeed a good
Dr.
conversation.
Bell, Magdalena, and so many of you who have joined us from the UK, from Canada, US, throughout the
Wow.
Caribbean and Jamaica. We are pleased to have had you. Thank you, Damian Chambers, yeah, who on the
Mhm.
Piper sound. Yes, the technology in the background, I must acknowledge and acknowledge the other persons who contributed to this being a success. And that's how we end this segment of Let's Talk Life and Legacy, a moment with Dr. Grace, discussing the topic surviving COVID-19 financial crisis. This was a vibrant,
Bye, everyone.
edifying, empowering session. Thank you. And we say, ta-ta.
Ta-ta.
Ta-ta!